You're running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Let me see here. This might be. We should be working. Can you hear me there, Brian? Is that working any better for you? Let me know. I apologize if you can't hear me, but it does look like it's working, at least from my side. You know what? Let me do a quick check here on. I can check it from the actual feed. Let's do that quickly here. Don't want to be speaking without speaking. That won't help anybody. Let's see what it comes up with here. Am I speaking or not? Let's see here. Maybe not. Let's see what comes up with no, here. It does. Speaking or not? It does. So, Brian, that okay, perfect, Brian. And then thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate you very much. We want to make sure that everyone can hear me here. So I will sort of repeat what I was going over there, since I don't know that everybody was hearing me before. Looking at a macro level, you know, all three indices are in the red this morning. NASDAQ down around 56 basis points, S&P down 42 basis points, and the Dow Jones down about 40 basis points. My general mood, though, there has been that we were rising up since about 5 a.m. At 7 a.m., we sort of got top heavy, and we're seeing a little bit of a retracement. Biggest story out there for sure is the Fed chair pick, Kevin Warsh. He was a former Fed governor. He is now the man picked to replace Powell. So we'll see there how the markets price that in. He is generally considered to be a credible and orthodox pick here, so that does have the markets. It had the markets at least liking it. It did have the debasement trade really in full effect. Part of that is he has been hawkish in general. He is not a very dovish. He was not very dovish as governor. He did change his tune. He was very critical of the Fed over the last year or so. But he is not in the camp of the White House's, lower dollar, lower rate scenario. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, whatever he said in those interviews was enough to put him in place. I do think that our Treasury Secretary Bessent had a lot to do with that, and that helped move the needle also. So we also just had CPI numbers come in. Let me grab those for you here. They just came across the board at 8:30 as I was coming on. They had gone up, it looked like. Where are they? They're not here on me, of course, because I said that. I'll get those numbers pulled up as I'm trying to find those there. We are bracing for definitely a choppy Friday here, and we'll see how stocks turn around. Gold holding that 5,000. I was mentioning that also seems to be the key level in the sand that most pundits are talking about. If it holds 5,000, a healthy pullback, and maybe we see a continuation trade there. And the same thing, silver have been bandied about the $100 mark, but it's been fluctuating back and forth across that level. The second huge macro thing I'm sort of looking at is definitely the raising tensions in the Middle East as we, send more naval carriers there. So we're definitely keeping an eye on that. I will say, though, that we haven't seen that reaction show up in oil yet. Normally we see oil spike, although I guess it is moving up on the shorter term here. So yeah, it is moving up. That's a deceiving, we're down 15 basis points versus yesterday, but remember that futures trade 23 hours a day. So you really topped out about 9 a.m. yesterday, and we've sort of been on a decline till we hit about 2 a.m. this morning. So tensions are starting to ramp maybe back up here. It's a similar look to what the VIX has done also. So it does play in line. That volatility is picking up, as is our gauge of geopolitics that we look at a lot is definitely oil. It's one of the things that usually skyrockets in times of war. So we'll see how that moves there. And then also, again, keeping an eye on the VIX that continues to move up this morning now at 1811. So those are definitely the guys to keep an eye on. Also watch today and single tickers. There are a couple of the big oil energy companies that already are either already reported earnings or going to. Exxon down about 68 basis points here after releasing their earnings. I didn't see their numbers, so I'll pull right here. They had a top line revenue beat of about 2%, and they did beat on EPS also. Geopolitics, obviously a big player in here, but holding up pretty well at that 139.5 mark here. Chevron was the other one that reported. CVX. And it is also fairly flat here. So they also had their earnings, and I believe had both a EPS beat a little bit wider than the other at 7.39% of a beat. Came in at $1.52 per share versus estimates at $1.41. And top line revenue was a slight beat also. So we did have that across the energy sector. So keep an eye there. The other thing to keep an eye on, of course, then is defense. You can look at XAR as a way to look at that. That is the defense sector ETF, and not really showing a lot of fear there. So the defense ETF showing a multi-day decline, so they're not as concerned there, or traders are not concerned there. So we will definitely keep an eye on it. Other things we didn't talk about the capitulation across crypto. Bitcoin dropped down to 81,000 overnight. Pretty much bounced right off of that level, holding up decently at 82,726 here, but we got to see a much bigger recovery here to think you're out of the woods. Hearing some rumors on the street that if we drop below 80K here, there are going to be some large margin calls amongst some of the major players. And when we say major players, we're talking more the market makers and the big VCs more so than retail. So hearing some murmurs on the street about that. So we definitely want to keep an eye on crypto today. Need to see a healthy bounce back there, or maybe at risk of further meltdown towards the level that I've had marked out here for a while, which is 76,660 or so, as our area of probably where we start to see that final capitulation come in. So we'll see if that comes in today or not. Looking at the biggest movers when it comes to the stock market pre-market, on the upside, all the talk is about, well, not all of it, but most of it based around memory storage when it comes to computers. SanDisk, SNDK, up over 22% now towards highs of the pre-market after having stellar earnings overnight. It absolutely crushed, and what really crushed was their forward guidance. Absolutely blew it away. What we're going to see as we talk through most of these earnings today is that the earnings, last quarter was pretty good for a lot of folks. It's all about the forward guidance, and that's where things really did sort of change narratives here. So those are the things to keep an eye. Company with, keep in mind that SanDisk was a spinoff of Western Digital. So number one, keep an eye on sympathy play WDC. Definitely another one to keep an eye on there, as they were part of that company, and they're up about 3% here this morning. They expect third quarter adjusted earnings in the range of $12 to $14 a share, which is a little bit above Wall Street forecasts, which are only at $5.11. Good to see you there, Dr. Speck and Mr. Flanagan. It is a new day at the Fed. Kevin Warsh coming into line. So we'll see how that plays out today. He should be a steady hand. I mentioned Mr. Flanagan. I think that Mr. Besant had a lot to do with this pick, rather close to him. There is a lot of ties to the White House, too. If you don't know, Kevin Warsh is married to the Lauder estate, as in Estee Lauder, and Ronald Lauder, a Wharton buddy of the president, and longtime supporter of him. So he has a few connections there. It's going to be interesting to see him and his first few press conferences, because he has been negative on some of the president's actions over the past couple of years. And he's been really hard on the Fed. What I like about Kevin Warsh is, whether you think he is hawkish or dovish, and there is definitely room for debate there, I would say. Well, well, we'll see if there's room for debate. He has been one way as of now, which has been hawkish for years. But does he become more dovish? But he's always been big about the overhaul of the Fed, which we have said, Mr. Flanagan, right, is something we need to see. So hopefully he'll put some modern day twists to it. Look in the front of the car while driving forward, not in the rear view mirror, how we currently look at our how the Fed currently looks at it. So I am definitely excited to hear what you have to say there, Mr. Flanagan, today on it, and how you think it will affect the DXY, because he is not, if I remember, he follows your suit more of King Dollar versus trying to keep a low dollar, but you would be the expert there on how that would play out. But I believe from what I've read and seen over the years that he is not someone who necessarily thinks that for the economy to grow, we need a weak dollar. So is the King Dollar trade back in play? Mr. Flanagan will break that down for us all here in about an hour. Other things keeping in mind or watching today, KLAC is the ticker here in the US. It is KLA Corporation, down about, well, they're bouncing back a little bit, down only 7.5%, was down over 8% earlier. They are interesting because this company is a company that sort of provides the tools and machines that the other semiconductor companies use to build out their products. So they have a little bit of a weaker guidance here. And again, the last quarter was great. You know, it's more about the fact that they are projecting to be down versus estimates in the next quarter. Other ones that we're watching here today, Visa. Down about 1% here. The payments giant reported fiscal first quarter earnings and revenue that did beat Wall Street estimates. They were boosted by strong card user spender. Both Visa and their peer MasterCard have been under pressure. As you can see here, they took the big drop down when the president announced the 10% cap on credit cards. But you can see they had been making a nice recovery, but now trading at about 328.50 today. We'll see MasterCard comes out with earnings also. On the good news side, Decker Outdoors, again, I believe if we look back at their last earnings too, they had a nice beat last earnings, had another beat here again this time, and this time the street likes what they're saying. Last time, not so much. So they surged here almost 14% after the owner of UGG and Hoka, and we will have to give Mr. BigBeat a hard time about this later. As we know, he said no one wears those anymore. It looks like they are. They posted fiscal third quarter earnings that topped analyst forecast and issued better than expected fiscal guidance for this year. Their net sales in the third quarter jumped almost 20% to 628, almost 629 million. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. Earnings. It's all about earnings today. Let's get into the next one, Verizon. Verizon is up about 5% here in the pre-market trading. Nice little move to the upside here. Actually about to close the gap that it has going back all the way to the beginning of October. The wire carrier posted better than expected earnings here, and revenue again was strong. They posted adjusted earnings of $1.09 a share from revenue of about $36.4 billion. So about a 4-cent per share beat on the EPS, and just a slight beat on top line revenue. Notably, Verizon added 616,000 postpaid phone subscribers in the fourth quarter. The figure definitely outstripped the 417,000 that analysts had been expecting, as well as the 500,000 in subscribers that added in the same period last year. Their postpaid churn rate, which is their measure of attrition, was 1.3. So again, still staying pretty good. They discussed their acquisition of Frontier Communications that they had earlier this month. brings its total fixed wireless and fiber broadband connection to 16.3 million customers. In the fourth quarter alone, they added about 372,000 net broadband connections and 319,000 net fixed wireless connections. Fios internet net additions also came in strong at their highest addition in 5 years, 67,000. And it was the first quarter under their new CEO, former PayPal chief executive Dan Schulman. So he does seem to have Verizon moving in the right direction here. Happy to see it. And it is a good indicator on the communications sector. So maybe we see a little bit of love paid to some of the others. Let's take a look also at SoFi. Let's get to some financials. We got SoFi and Amex. We'll start with SoFi, one of the companies I'm a big fan of because they were the first federally chartered bank here in the U.S. to open up crypto purchases, up about 5.75%. I do think that SoFi very well plays out the super app narrative that is sort of brewing. Both our CFTC commissioner and SEC commissioner were just on CNBC this week discussing how more and more of the markets will be moving on chain, and how they also think that there should be a place where you can go and do your banking and get your loans and buy your cryptos and buy your stocks and equities and buy your bonds and manage your 401k and have your credit card or debit card all in one place. SoFi, one of the companies trying to grab a foothold there. The one thing that I always like to look at with SoFi is how they're doing with the younger generation. SoFi is one of the companies that pushes or allows for parents to get credit cards or debit cards and accounts for kids under 18, helping to rise. They're really big on fiscal literacy. And I do think that is a great thing that we should be working on in this nation that we don't do enough at Quasar Markets. It's one of the things we try to focus on. So I'm a big fan of SoFi. Earnings look great here, up about 6% here. It looks like it wants to make a run at least to the 50-day MA and the midline on this linear regression towards that 27. Zora, good to see you this morning. Hope all is well, my friend. On the other side of the financials, not what I would call a fintech company by any means. Oh, well, that's terrible to say that. But not one of the disruptors, more one of the incumbents, American Express, right? They are down about 2.43% here this morning on their earnings report. And pulling up some numbers there, they posted earnings of $3.53 a share, just below consensus. Revenue, net of interest expenses, came in just below $19 billion, up 10% versus last year and higher than what Wall Street was expecting. But the president's call to cap credit card interest rates at 10% definitely are weighing on American Express. Looking ahead, the company does expect to see full year revenue growth to hold steady right around that 9 to 10% in 2026. And they are forecasting for a big increase in their EPS to go back towards $17.30 to $17.90 for the year. So again, frontline or forward guidance, they are trying to point to a higher push. So we'll see there. I do see MasterCard now, their earnings has hit. I don't know why I didn't just type in SMC there. They are down about 68 basis points here. Their earnings, though, they are moving up after this morning news. They had a revenue and top line beat here. So MasterCard is seeing a nice little move to the upside yesterday, seeing a little bit of a pullback now. And what else was I looking at so far this morning on the early morning gainers? I think I hit most of the sectors I wanted to clap on here. Hold it 1 second. Those are the big ones. So again, communications, electronic technology that has to do with, storage, memory storage, and the communication sector are definitely the sectors to watch today. On the laggards, as you can imagine, with the pullback on metals, we are seeing a lot of the non-energy mineral miners, HYMC down about 21% here. Royal Gold down 7%. CENX down 6.52. Warren down about 5.8. TMC 4.26. So we do see that is probably the biggest side of the laggards. We do see also a downtrend on any of the crypto adjacent names, with crypto taking the big fall today. That is not very surprising at all. So names like MSTR, IREN, and others also getting hit pretty hard this morning. Gambling getting hit for a second day. DraftKings down about 2.63% also. And a lot more laggards than winners so far. But I will say it is moving in the right direction. Earlier today, there was less than one page of stocks that were in the green out of anything above 2 billion in a market cap. It was down to about 12 names. So we are seeing a little bit of an increase in the breadth. Maybe we see some strength start to pick up today. But it's going to definitely be tweet analysis today. Earnings do slow down usually on Fridays. Let's take a quick look here at what we got on the calendar. On the economic side, I did mention PPI came in. It did come in a little bit hot, a little bit higher than expected, 3.3 versus 3.1. So nothing crazy, but a little bit hot there. And earnings today, do have 130 companies doing earnings, so we still have a decent amount. Let's see if there's any big names on here that I'll be watching for. Not seeing much that really. In fact, I don't really see. United Bancorp is about, what is the biggest by market caps? Anybody that matters? 4 million. Sierra Bancorp. So there's a couple of companies, some banks that are doing it. Orange County Bank. So it looks like a lot of the regional banks are going to be reporting today. So a day you might want to keep your eye on regional banks, and maybe the regional bank ETF is a good way to look at that. Yeah, First Republic also. So yeah, we do have some banks reporting today. That seems to be about it. Banks. So that's what we're watching there. We'll keep an eye on that. I know BigBeat's slated to come in here. We need to find out what's going on with our silver markets. Are we making money today? Or are we losing money? I know BigBeat's making money on it. So let's get him into the room here and let's see what's going on. My man, BigBeat, how's your morning starting off?
I don't know what to say at this point, right? And I think I said this earlier. I'm going to do a video about what's missing in the markets, and what's missing in the markets is common sense. It's just flat out missing common sense. There's a lot of new traders in this market. They're new. When I was a kid, a lot of my friends played paintball. Thanks, James. I had a dear friend of mine, Tyler Van Ormer. He used to say to me, like, look at all the new people. Look at all the new newbies to shoot, new targets to shoot, right? And I didn't really understand that. I was like, wow, we need to train them up, show them how to play, how to play paintball with us, right? Yeah, we're going to destroy them. But as a team, we worked like a glove. And you still see this movement. I'm looking at social media right now. Thanks, Sora. And they're ready to buy again, even though knowing Kevin Warsh is going to be federal chair, even though that silver's overbought, even though all of the narratives are now gone. There's still a situation. And why is that? Why is it happening? Right? And that's because the immensity of social media, the pressure of it to understand is just gone. It's the economics, the pinpoint of what's really happening. If you heard from us and Steve Flanagan, 42 years of JP Morgan, telling you the dollar's going to go higher. Well, if the dollar goes higher, that makes precious metals go down. Why the precious metals? Oh, because Elon said that we need more and we don't have enough. Okay, there's a supply issue. I promise you, they'll find some. Well, I heard people the other day say, well, you know, the problem is they haven't had a new mines in 5 years. At this price of gold and silver, they're going to be rushing with
They'll be everywhere. They'll be digging out under my house. I'm sure when they're building my assessment in the back where they're putting the new sewer in, I'm sure they're looking for silver and gold while they're there.
When we have an oil,
that's definitely the case.
$120. Oil was over 100 not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
They were looking for oil.
And Steve, it's crypto too. Same thing. Even, you know, all day yesterday, I've been saying for a month, we're headed down to 76. No one wants to listen. Retail's 4-to-1 long, and they got crushed. They got absolutely crushed. And
but I will say this much: I will say that people will start buying Bitcoin at some point. I don't know when. And I was asked.
This is actually the inflection point. Today, we normally see about a 2.5 to 5% bounce on a day like today, but we got to see it make it through the cash open first. But today, usually, that's.
But how many times have we heard Bitcoin's dead?
It's not dead, but this is it. Although I will tell you, and I saw Jay Woods talking about it early on CNBC this morning. There are some murmurs that some market makers, VCs, are on the wrong edge of this, and that they will get margin calls at 80 or below. So there are some major TradFi players maybe out there that might be on the wrong side of it.
I'm not too scared. You know, Jay and I are best dear friends, so I believe in him, and he's right. But I'm not scared of Bitcoin. I mean, purple Pepe, purple poop, ghost coin. Yeah, you're done, right? You're done. You're embarrassing, right, yourself. But no, not for Bitcoin, not for Ethereum and Solana, and of course I've been accumulating chain link. I think that's a smart move here, especially at these prices. I'm not going to tell me what to do, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I think common sense. And you've got a Kevin Warsh who loves crypto. He calls it the next level of gold. He calls it, and he's going to be the Fed chair. Now I know Tom Tillis came out and said he's not going to do it, and if Lisa Murkowski comes out, I don't think that's. I think you're politicizing the Fed now at this point.
Yeah, it will get. Although, and he made it clear though, Tillis, that he supports Warsh. He just wants this. He won't vote for anybody until they settle the case against Powell.
And Waller just came out a few seconds ago. He's saying labor market does not look remotely healthy, and while supply was a factor, demand is weak. Says inflation is elevated from tariffs, but monetary policy should look through the effects given anchored expectations, saying that he expects that weak job numbers from last year to be revised lower to reflect virtually no growth in payroll employment in 2025. And says policy should be closer to neutral, perhaps around 3% versus the current rate range of 3.5 to 3.75. So he's saying and more rate cuts. So,
but he lost. He wasn't the guy that got put in place. So it is also interesting to see that all of a sudden, maybe if and he has been saying this for the last couple of months.
You mean Chris Waller?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris Waller's from St. Louis. Great guy, by the way. I like him a lot.
But he was one of the ones up for this Fed chair. He didn't get it. It went to
Waller wants to be, but there's no way he was going to get it. I mean, he's very ambitious. I'll tell you that much. I've had nice chats with him. He's a very ambitious guy, but there's no way he was going to be it. He's not Fed chair quality. Let's put it that way. Look, I think I made a post earlier today about Kevin Warsh. He has Harvard educated. He is Yale educated. He is been in. George Bush said, hey, at 35 years old, I want to put you in, right? In the Fed. That's a pedigree that you want in there. You want a steady hand who understands how it works. That's the thing that I liked. So that makes me a lot happier about Kevin Warsh here. I picked Kevin Warsh back in the day, but when he started looking at other ones, I was like, okay, maybe not. But I thought Kevin Warsh was the best pick, and I think the president should be applauded for this pick here.
And there is ties to the White House, as he is married to the Lauder family. Estee Lauder and Ronald Lauder are one of the biggest donors to the White House. So there's that connection, and close with Secretary Bessent. I think Bessent had a lot to do with this.
Of course.
So I do think that's a good thing. Steve, earnings are in. Apple had great earnings. Market doesn't seem to like them, though.
But here's what's interesting. We said it, right? The numbers were very good for what? The thing I said was iPhone sales. They were explosive. I said, yep. I went to Apple stores. You couldn't miss it. The Apple stores were just jam-packed with people buying the iPhone 17 Pro Plus. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I think iPhone sales are going to get even bigger with the Fold and the 18 because all the things are implementing into it.
Yeah, I can't argue there. Their services were up, Macs were down. I was impressed by the earnings, but obviously the market had an initial jump on it and then retraced pretty hard, got as high as 268.34 before pulling back. But I do think maybe we see some breathing room there today as people digest the earnings. Steve, a company you've not been a huge fan of, absolutely crushed it, SanDisk.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of SanDisk. Look, there's a massive issue here with SanDisk. I can't seem to put my fingers on. I don't know. Again, it could be another issue once again of common sense, not paying attention here. I get it. I understand what SanDisk does. I have SanDisk all over my house. In fact, there we go. Got them right in front of me. There's SanDisk, but it's 8 gigs. Who the hell has 8 gigs anymore, right? I get it. They've got all kinds of bigger ones. I understand. Look here. I've got another one here. I think, is it SanDisk? No, that's Sony memory stick. We use Sony anymore? No. There's my point, right? I even got there you go. I got a micro card SanDisk, right? And that's 32 gigabytes, right? My phone has 1 terabyte, right? I don't really, okay, I get it, SanDisk has the same thing, but your phone does not have a little port in it anymore for that disk, right? What are you going to do with that disk? Okay, well, SanDisk has memory that goes into your, okay, great. Oh, they're going to make servers. You're going to tell me that people are going to pick SanDisk over NVIDIA? You're going to tell me they're going to pick it over Micron? I don't think so. Over Taiwan Semi?
No, they don't do the same thing, Steve. I think you're missing this one completely.
Okay.
Their growth's being driven by artificial intelligent data center boom. Their AI computing requires massive amounts of data at every stage of the process. And they provide the storage for NAND flash memory, never mind their storage disk, and they're more essential for performance critical workloads, ASICs. You're the guy that says ASICs is needed. They're producing. This is what goes into ASICs. Did you know that?
Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, I do know that.
Okay, but I don't think so.
But the question, that's what their money is. But the question, I said short silver, and I was right because it was.
You were, and SanDisk you said to short at 240. It's at 539. When do you say you were wrong? You're never wrong.
I don't short
Come
SanDisk.
on, man.
I don't short SanDisk, but I don't like it. I still don't like it. I don't like it. I still don't like it. I still don't like it. I think
you didn't like it at 200. You don't like it at 539. Analysts are calling for 1,000. An analyst. I'm not talking about retail. I'm not talking about retail.
I saw a silver analyst today call for silver to 500. And like that doesn't make it right. Apple had great sales, but the price is not going up for it. It doesn't mean that people are going to buy and sell. But psychology is the key here. They chase the shit out of SanDisk, right? And I still don't understand it. If you look at SanDisk right now, let's look at the fundamentals of SanDisk. And I know fundamentals don't mean anything in this market. If I look at the SanDisk numbers right now. And I'm going to pull these. I'm going to see if I can't get these numbers up more for their financials. Yeah, there we go. All right, SanDisk. Basic EPS. You just want to pull it up, everybody? You might want to pull it up. It's minus 12. They're not making
EPS estimate is $10.10. I don't know where you're looking.
It's no basic EPS. No TTM, right? It's minus 12, right? They don't have enough goddamn money to make the damn things. So I don't know what the hell everybody's talking about. Right, that's what. But yeah, I have people that I know that are trading it. They just love it. They're buying it. I'm like, why are you buying it? I don't know, but everybody else is buying it. Well, that's not a reason to buy it. That's a total reason not to buy it. But I understand. I understand why you're doing it. Why are you buying silver? Because everybody else is buying silver. There's a narrative here. Well, okay. Is the narrative correct? No, it's not. It's wrong. And all of a sudden, now we find out it's wrong. Listen, I wouldn't be shocked if SanDisk came all the way back, but I'm not. I love Palantir. When everybody said Palantir was stupid, 35. Palantir 220 is stupid. It's at 150. So just because a price goes to something does not make it right. I'm not saying that. And look, I even admitted it the other day. I thought maybe I was wrong on silver as it pushed up. But that's the problem. Ron, we're okay, man. This is just, we're fine, bro. But it's like when we look at the markets, that's what I'm saying today. Is that common sense is missing. It's these oversized pricing. It's oversized buying. Look at Sanders options leaps right now. They're outrageous. $1,000 options are being placed on Sanders. What in the world are you talking about? Right? And if you look at Sanders in general, I mean, pull up the website. I mean, it's not the company that I'm going to be looking at. AI storage demand, but what you tell me that there's nobody, another company that does SanDisk or does storage, or memory cards and flash drives?
Not the ones for AI, like you said. Everybody makes the little ones for your phone or your little ones for your memory card, but only a very small amount make these NAND fusion cards that matter for AI functions for the ASICs. That's a big part of ASICs, and that's ASICs is what NVIDIA said. NVIDIA is a buyer of these products.
I'm with you. So I just I'd like to do my homework, so I'm gonna do my homework on this. Name me the companies that are AI focused with NAND storage. So that's Sky Hynix, which I love. Samsung, is bigger and better.
Well, Samsung you can't get them. That's the whole thing. This is a play on Samsung and HS.
That is true. That I do understand.
Yeah, then, that's what I mean. The only other people that produce them can't produce them fast enough. Seagate's the other company, and Seagate killed earnings, and that's why they took off. This sector is bigger than I think you're giving. That's all I'm saying is I think this sector is bigger than
look, if you think the AI sector for holding this kind of data is bigger than I'm thinking, then maybe I'm wrong on it. I'll do my homework on it. So I would say,
and that's all I'm saying. It's not the company it used to be, and it's not, and they're not looking for growth at that retail. And you're right, no one's buying those.
Company that used to be Intel's still a company it used to be. I mean, okay.
And the fact that ASICs, and that's the big change that people don't understand is that ASICs and the way that they work, they need these chips on the boards. So NVIDIA, when they send out that big ASIC, their big graphic card, their big stuff, it has the SanDisk NAND on it. That's what's allowing for the ASICs to work. And the other part where I have an unfair advantage there is it's what goes into Bitcoin minings. And that's how I know what these things are.
That one I don't understand.
So that's all I was saying is this company is very different. Don't get nervous. We yell at each other all day.
Oh yeah, no.
You should see us at last call at a bar.
That is true.
Yeah.
No, we've been friends for many years. So, but we got to read the heat. But I mean, I'm looking at the numbers from Barron's right now. Okay, and they're all still saying the same thing, that it's Western Digital. And
it used to be, yeah. It's a spinoff.
Right.
And that's why they spun it off, though, so that they could raise the money to get into this A6. That's what I'm saying. This isn't what they spun off. It's totally redeveloped itself.
And how does Seagate fit into all of this? Okay, you know what?
Because they're the other player in their stuff, and it's just there's not enough memory out there. We were all chasing chips last year, right? Everybody, right. And look what it did. Well, all I'm saying is watch some of these memory companies. Memory might be the thing that the sector that everyone sort of neglected last year.
So would you buy SanDisk here?
I don't know if I'd buy it here, but I'm just saying I think it's a strong company. Would I look for it to pull back towards the 500? Yeah, I want a healthy. I'm like you. I don't chase these things. I don't like FOMO either. I just want to make sure we understand and we're telling people what the company is and does.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah.
It's not like it's not IBM. Look, I had to ask my clients yesterday. I didn't even know what IBM sells anymore. If they sold PCs, and they tell me they sold that off to Lenovo. I didn't even know that they did that.
Yeah, IBM is the machine right now. It is Big Blue right now.
It's back.
I will say I'm looking at let's break it down then. Let's look at SanDisk. Let's look at the charts then. Howard.
Yep.
Let's pull up a daily chart. And let's go back to May of 2025. May of 2025. It's not even been a year. What was the price of that stock?
$27.
What stock
Well,
price?
now it's low. I don't know what it stopped at, what it started at.
Where somewhere around there, right? 27 in less than a year to 650.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It ain't worth it. I'm sorry, folks. It's stupid. It's stupid. And that's what I'm saying here. It's not, I don't understand it. And if I don't understand a price like that, then there's no way that the price of the company, and you're not telling me that insiders aren't dumping some of this stock?
I don't know. You can figure that out pretty quick.
Right. I guarantee you they are. I don't have to look and tell you they are. If they're not, then they're the dumb ones. Because this is asinine, folks. This is what I mean by common sense. It needs to get back in the markets. You're going to have a lot of people that are just going to get behind spanked on this. Less than a year. We're talking about 8 months. The stock went from 27 to 6, and actually it went higher than that if you look at the highs of the range, right?
What do you mean? 664 right now.
664. 27. No, it's not worth this. No. That's what I'm saying. Tell me it's $100. Okay. Tell me silver's going back to 85. Okay. Not 500. When I hit 121, I was like, no, I just said, hold your nose and short. Right? Why? Because it's stupid. Right? Oh my God, we got to get him in. I mean, this is great, man. Bring him in right now. We're already in it.
What's up, Mr. Flanagan?
I love
it. Good morning, guys. I think I need to play referee like Howard usually does.
I love this.
I was waiting on Steve all day because he's been over that stock since it's 100. He didn't like it at 100. He didn't like it at 2. He didn't like it at 5.
I don't care about saying this at all. I don't have a. Okay, Steve. Today I'm going to do a video.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a video today. I think that's important, and I think it's imperative that we do it. I'm going to have someone ask me the question: what is missing in the markets today? And I'm going to tell you my answer right after you tell me, because I don't know if you heard me this morning, but tell me your answer.
Steve, a little bit of sensibility. We seem to be headline driven. We're all trying to chase instead of trying to pick our head up and look outside of the forest at the horizon to the direction we're going. I'll give an example. On our last chat on Wednesday, on Monday, we talked about all the negatives everybody was focusing on this week. Okay, we've still got some geopolitical issues out there, but we're missing 2 massive issues that were undercutting the entire market. 1, a shutdown. Nope, not going to happen. 2, politicized Fed. Not going to happen. Now you've got a Fed guy in there, a guy who's got Wall Street pedigree to him in M&A. I mean, the 2 huge negatives are gone. I mean, this is like, okay, look out the front windshield here. We're going up. That's the end of story. We may be trading off right now overseas, but, people are going to miss this boat big time. And that comes back to you. I believe we do miss a lot of sensibility, and we're too, moment to moment being driven, and we're not looking at the bigger picture. The blocks keep falling into place. And I think I'm very positive, ending this week right now.
Yeah, and I think the thing we're missing is common sense.
Yeah, okay. That's a good word for it.
Yeah, I think
that's what the market needs for sure, guys. I'm going to leave you here to get at it. Mr. Flanagan, I'm going to ask before I leave, though, are you worried about geopolitical tension still in the Middle East this weekend? You buying any protection there?
As always, it's a Friday, and given the past Fridays of this new year, you have to have some defensive position. You're not going all in on a Friday.
Absolutely.
I prefer to, open up on a Monday, see what happened. So I tend to like UVXY as a volatility play. It's done very well the previous 2 weeks as I open on a Monday. So I will look to have that position on. And from a dollar point of view, I may stay with a long dollar yen position over this weekend. Normally, I like to be flat, but I have a lot to say. I think this dollar yen is going to really hurt a lot of people.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
Well, I was going to ask, and is King Dollar back with Mr. Warsh? Because he is a King Dollar guy, right? He's not like with the White House on this one.
He's definitely more hawkish from his previous statements. But I think our secretary already laid the groundwork to that. The United States is a strong dollar policy. And, you heard him when he was asked the question, are we getting ready to intervene in the dollar yen? He said, absolutely not.
Right.
I mean, couldn't be more clear. Normally, which he said in the second sentence, we don't like to comment on things in the currency market. But he came right out with that punch.
And I'm going to ask the second question, because the other concern that some people have seen voice, where you said there's not really that politicization of it, is that this is going to be a move towards Treasury and Fed Reserve not really working as two separate entities, but working together. Does that worry you at all?
Not at all. Every other country does the same thing. And what does that mean? It means that for the past year, we've been talking about the Fed behind the curve, behind the curve. What we now have, perhaps, is a Fed that is more in tune with American people, meaning it sees a lot of Steve's K economy. It sees a lot of the problem with, middle America, and will respond to that. And secondarily,
but Kevin Warsh has a problem that you constantly talk about. He is an academic as well. I mean, he's a Harvard, Yale educator. Yes,
I was going to save that for Monday. I was going to give you the weekend.
But I like Kevin Warsh. It was my pick from the get-go.
All three of us have been a fan.
Yeah, I think we all. But he's an academic, Steve. So I don't want to. I mean, you're still saying it.
I don't disagree there, Steve, and that's why. The big curveball setup of Trump is politicizing the Fed, and the Fed's going to be part of the White House. Out. You're out.
He's the one who picks a Fed anyway. It's always politicized.
He chose Powell. He doesn't get to have that hindsight. Now, guys, I'm going to leave you on that note. Those were my big question, guys. Get at it.
Later, brother.
Weekend, Howard. Great weekend.
All right, I'm going to let you have the stage for a while here, Flans. 96.20 is where you said buy the Dixie. And here we are, 96.67. And I don't give you the stage enough. I need to do that. So I'm going to get out of here and let you talk about currencies for a while.
Sure. That's great, Steve. 96.20 was a big break. 96.20 was the big break point that we highlighted to the viewers here. I have to stay true to my discipline. I mentioned 96.80 70. That area was a warning signal. We broke there. I started to cut my dollar longs, but I definitely exited when we got through 96.20, got down to a low of 95.55. And then no doubt, I was my whole thesis was out. But, one thing that is very important to the viewers when we look at charts, it's that, it gives a good signal. And if you stay disciplined, it will always keep your losses smaller than your gains. But when we broke 96.20, just to show you how I traded this, exited longs, went down. I did not go short, which you could have done, but I did not play that two-sided sword. I let it percolate and I watched. As we began to come back up above 96.20, I reestablished my long because, hands up. I got knocked out. The market found my weakness, my breaking point, and I respected it. They beat me, but now I'm back in it, and we're at 96.64 right now. So net, I am still down on my overall P&L on my position, but I have strong conviction now that as long as we stay above that level, so I'll use 96.10 now to give myself a little bit of leeway, that I still think we could see the dollar index trade higher. We've got a lot of places to go. The market is very negative in the dollar. But as I mentioned earlier, two major things: government shutdown gone, and now we've got a Fed pick who suddenly goes against the tide that everybody was saying you had to sell the dollar on. Those two elements are now out. So you've got to take the negatives away, which brings in a positive environment that I'm trying to portray right now.
Yeah. And is there something else that you're interested in? I mean, obviously we talked about Ukraine and Russia and China and all the macro issues. It looks like Iran might be getting back to normal. We've stuck enough ships out there on the coast of Tehran. I think that maybe Tehran quiets down and they're now talking about, let's have a chat. Let's not blow things up here.
You know, it's very possible what may happen if we just use Venezuela as the litmus test here. We go in, we remove somebody, and then we leave the entire structure in place so that, you know, the government can take over and the people's choice can, you know, take power. Will we remove the Ayatollah? I'm not certain. Maybe an election is called, a free election that has a lot of independent international checkers in there. And let's see, you know, if the people vote for a more moderate representative, then it's up to the Ayatollah to, you know, watch that wish and give power to that wish. I tend to think that he will be removed. That's my bottom line. I think that he will leave on his own accord because I think that the next turning to the street.
And we are open right now, Steve. So
you go, Steve.
I think a lot of people were asking me about my my short on silver. I thought about it in the pre-market. I thought about it late last night. I didn't do it then. I took a little bit off here just on the open because I didn't know how crazy it's going to be. You can see ZSL right now. That is nutty this morning. But it's a pretty quiet morning here. Dollar MEX now for you, 17.27. That's not a lot of, it's not as many quote margaritas and siestas as we had in the past. Bitcoin now down to 82,859 again. So, Steve, I don't know what you're thinking here. Talk to me a little bit about the future. Are you worried? I'm gonna pull up the silver chart so we can keep our eye on it. But I'm kind of thinking that this might be where it's at today. But I will. There you go. There's the silver. I'll pull up a 5-second chart so we can get a pretty good feel of it there.
Well, you know, Steve, the one thing that I always look at when I watch silver and gold, you know, everybody traditionally and all the pundits were out there when silver and gold hit their tops, everybody said dollar's going to collapse. Well, if we're going to use that logic, when the dollar hit the 95.55 level against Dixie, then what are we saying today? As silver and gold are collapsing, the dollar has to go back up. Right now, you've got a market that's caught. Howard alluded to the crypto world, and maybe a little bit lower could be some problems. But now you've got a market in silver and gold that are caught, as well as the correlation to the dollar. They're caught here as well. So, you know, this is an interesting Friday. You hate because you got no more trading room, and then you have to sit Saturday and Sunday without the ability to trade. I think you could see quite an outsized move today by the time we hit the bell and close.
And they're asking, Steve, QQQ, what about China and others selling their U.S. bonds affecting the dollar? Is that what I heard?
You know, Yeah, that's what everybody's rumoring. Yes. Again, the last figure that we had showed in the tick analysis that foreign holdings of the U.S. securities, bonds, stocks was the highest ever on record. So we keep hearing about China. How much can China sell versus how large that market is? And then I'm going to offset that by saying the Fed is now buying about $45 billion a month as they hold the balance sheet frozen. And you've got the tether market and buying treasuries as
Steve,
well.
I'm right here. I am actually shorting. I'm shorting SanDisk right now.
Okay. I know I heard you and Howard going on about that. Steve, just a basic understanding of trading, anything that moves that far, that fast, clearly is an outlier. And, when you get in all your mean reversion models, which dominate electronic trading markets, of course, once this starts to turn, everybody's going to jump in. And that would be my idea behind why silver has moved so sharply.
And you're seeing a SanDisk now 654.50, 653. Yeah, I don't like this pricing here. I think this is dumb. I think if you are long, I'm not telling, we don't tell anybody what to do here, but man, oh man, take some freaking profit. I mean, this is
that's the bottom line. Take some profit. Lock in the money. As I always say in my trading, make it, keep it.
Right.
Simple. But I did want to point out one other thing from the Fed testimony this week, which I thought was a rather earth-shattering. But again, the market doesn't pick up because we're too focused on the nuances of the day-to-day trading, Steve. The Fed said, and they changed some of the wording, tariffs are not negatively impacting the economy. From unsure of the impact of tariffs. Well, what does that mean for inflation then? If it's not impacting,
it's nuts. It's wholly impacting, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a small impact, but the data, the Fed is changing and pivoting because since April, they have been hammering home tariffs, we can't lower rates. Well, maybe that's outside now.
Right. We had a question here. I had a question about commodities like copper, uranium, and electrical energy focused materials. The amount of energy required for AI going forward is huge. What is a sensible way to view future outlook on these commodities?
Copper has an incredible amount of industrial demand. If we begin to see a movement, and we are, to the housing sector, well, copper is involved in all the houses as well. So copper is industrial demand. So that's going to do well. It will come off from its, meteoric rise as well as silver and gold perhaps come off. But overall, I want to be long any of those. Uranium, well, that's
my goodness gracious, SanDisk now just dropping here now off the charts here. So I probably will take that profit and take a run here. Wow.
Make it, keep it, Steve. That's the way to go.
654. Yeah, we're off 12. Wow.
Look at that. Maybe just take half and let the other half run.
The good old strategy, right? I already took the money off and ran and put in the pocket. That's okay.
There you go. There you go. But uranium long term, I mean, the United States needs energy. Elon Musk in Davos was talking about more solar. But nuclear is the way at least the administration is focusing. So uranium, from that perspective, is a longer term hold, and you just have to, kind of move with the will of the market. I thought it was interesting that our government is now talking about getting involved with other countries about offering rare earth pricing support mechanism. So that's something interesting we want to watch. But the Fed is now of the future is incoming data. So I expect at least 1 to 2 more cuts over the course of this year, which to me supports my dollar theory. It leaves the dollar. as a higher interest rate currency. As we now move in next week to Europe and the Bank of England. Europe at 2%. There's a lot of people talking. They notice when the dollar hit above 120, when the euro traded 120 to the dollar, all of a sudden the Austrian central bank, part of the ECB, came out and said, maybe we need to look at our interest rates in the sense of lowering them because they don't want to run away Europe. It makes everything more expensive.
Right. Right. I agree.
If I move to the Japan, Tokyo CPI came out 1.5%, now suddenly below the 2% target. Removing food and energy, it was 2%, dropping from 2.3. Retail sales were way down. Guess what? Bank of Japan going on hold. That's where it's going to go because we've all talked about, again, headline trading. They've got to keep raising because their neutral rate is 1% higher. Not after 25 years of deflation. You don't think they're going to watch the economy. If they see the economy wavering to dipping, they are not going to be raising rates in a quick way.
Vince Carter here has a question. It says, what do you guys think the future is? I'm not really sure the question there. Future of what? But just kind of answer that question for you. We'll get to it. I have to ask the question now that the president's going to get Kevin Warsh. Do we think that he fires Powell early?
No need. That's just going to add to more politics. I think you'll see the Department of Justice probably drop the case very shortly. So, the Supreme Court's already kind of egged on and probably would rule in that favor anyway. So watch that come to a quick move and watch the new Fed chairman get, a very quick. Now, when I say quick, it may take a month or so, but I think Powell will just move to the side.
So he's asking the future of stocks. So what stocks would you guys buy to capitalize in the future? I mean, I think that how people capitalize on the internet. Oh, well, I think it's AI, right? I mean, Steve, don't you think it's the future of what we're doing? AI, quantum computing, all the things that you talk about.
Absolutely, Steve. I think the technology boom, but you've got to get through the first quarter. You've got to get through kind of April.
Yeah.
Once you get through April, a lot of this, keep in mind how much they're talking about, how much tax rebates are going out this year. Think about the stimulus that went into effect this year. No tips on tariff, all those things. There's so much stimulus in the pipeline, but let's get through the first quarter because I think the first quarter is going to be extremely volatile, just like we've seen this week. You've had tremendous opportunities to buy if you can just maintain patience, as we say in the business, keep your powder dry and wait for those opportunities. But technology is where it's all about. I think once you get through into April, I think the levels that we're going to see over the course of the next year into 2027 are just going to blow people's minds. This is a once in a generation type of move. And I've equated, Steve, I've equated this technology move to like when the telephone came and was invented and how that changed society. And then we can go into the internet, but this is even much larger. So, quantum computing, absolutely. That's going to come out probably towards the third, fourth quarter of the year. And that's where the explosion takes place. You asked about crypto. I think how it is, we got to get through this little dip here, this trough. But I think the three of us would probably say crypto is going to be risk on once we get through, in my view, once you get through probably another week or two.
And what is it that you're looking for to settle this all down?
I think you're already seeing that. One is the Fed governor. I think that's a huge thing because we have been talking for the last 4 months, if not longer, about how the administration is politicizing the Fed. And yet now we take a guy who's an academic, who's got great market Wall Street experience, and who is a former Fed. And more importantly, came through the great financial crisis as Ben Bernanke's right-hand man.
I agree.
So
I agree.
he understands the risk of deflation, which I've highlighted. China, for example, is slipping into the throes of deflation.
Steve,
Europe,
I've got the dollar in, up here, right where you bought, right where we're at, and you bought 96.20, and we're 96.64. What size up? What timeline do you have on this? Are you going to go long for a while?
as long as we stay above my 96.20, which I'll give it the 10 points discretion.
Okay.
As long as I stay above it, why should I close the position?
No, you should.
I have a high interest rate currency.
Yeah.
So when you have a position in, like, let's say I am long dollars and short the yen, which I am.
Yeah.
Then I am a 3.75% currency with the dollar and a 0.75 currency with the yen. So the interest rate differential I earn by being long dollars.
And
so
we like the Dixie now, or the Dixie against the yen, dollar yen now, 154.34 here. You think we get back to 158, 159 here?
Well, that's, we're going to get right back into the zone of get ready for Bank of Japan. Look at what happened on a whisper.
Yeah.
Now, understand how this had to work. Last Friday, the Fed on their own could have, but most likely the Treasury Department, at the behest of the Ministry of Finance in Japan, asked the Fed to go out and check levels in the dollar yen, which, by the way, they do routinely all week long as part of their bookkeeping and checking on markets. But let's just say that's the order it happened. Then everybody started off this week. The Treasury is getting ready to authorize intervention with the Ministry of Finance in Japan. Okay, I think I told you on Monday, that's hogwash. They can't do that. They're not going to do that. And of course, Treasury Secretary Bessent, when asked directly that question, said absolutely not. So can dollar yen go back up? Absolutely. 158 would be my target, at which time I would exit my long dollar yen position. I'll watch it very carefully. If I see the market turn, I may take some of it off, but that's the way I would trade it. Once you get above 158 and start pressing into the 160 zone, that's when it would potentially.
That's when she gets nervous, right?
That's right. And if you want to trade that, you better be sitting at the machine, because you could move 3 or 4 big figures in a whisper.
Yep. And Vince Carter asking, what cryptocurrency coins would you buy? What I am buying, we don't tell anybody what to buy, but I do own Bitcoin, Solana, and Chainlink. I think those are the 3 for me. I don't know, Steve, you own crypto a little bit, right?
Yes, I play crypto a little bit, and I do like Ethereum because of its basis in perhaps, where I see markets moving, in using blockchain technology. I think, we've got Ethereum as a standout there. And eventually, one of the things that I would look for over the next year, 2, or maybe hopefully less than that, is a T+0, or what I call atomic settlement, meaning settlement becomes instantaneous across the board. And that's the spark that ignites everything, because that means your money multiplier in economics, money moves instantaneous. No longer are you waiting for 2 days for settlement, or as it is mostly today, 1 day. You begin to move into a atomic settlement, instantaneous globally.
And they're asking me why Chainlink. Very simple. The New York Stock Exchange uses Chainlink. I like that. What about Ripple? Okay. I know a lot of people like Ripple. It's a little bit too volatile for me. Not volatile as in up and down. Volatile as in there's just too much of it, and it's too manipulative. I'm not a big fan of it. We're seeing silver now pushing up here, 101.14 now. So here we go again. Looks like the retailer buying the dip here on this thing.
Well, I mean, you've had a massive move down. I mean, people going to take some profits. And I think, ahead of 100, A lot of people are probably going to use that. That's probably got a lot of optionality, we say, meaning over this course of being above 100, a lot of people said, well, let me put my silver put in at 100. If it breaks 100, now what does that mean? It means that all the people that hold the silver option, the risk that they sold to the marketplace,
Right.
when it dumps through 100, they now have to turn to sell.
I agree. Yeah, I do expect that there was a lot of margin call today. I think there was. I mean, this was just. I mean, I'm sure maybe even last night they got them. 97. I think it hit as low like 97.50 at some point down there. Yeah, 95.13 this morning. That would have been really nice, but I just I think 85 is still the place here for silver. I think that's where it's at, going to somewhere around in here, maybe 90s. I think we get back down there. But this is a 1 hour chart, and the 1 hour chart is turning a little bit. So as the volume slows down a wee bit, I think that's when charts start to become back to prevalent again here, Steve.
That's right, Steve. And gold and silver have been a good hedge on a weekend risk. So there will be some people that say, look, I'm close to 100. Let me put a little bit of silver on. The problem is how it opens up on Monday. So, you've got to be very careful. I myself like the volatility index as a weekend risk play. I do like the way the globe is shaping up. Numbers out of Europe today weren't that bad.
Right.
I mean, if we look at a European perspective, French GDP came in the fourth quarter at plus 0.2. Woohoo! Yeah. German GDP went from 0 to plus 0.3. Italy went from plus 0.1 to plus 0.3. So there is a general, Europe might be looking like it could be. We always would say if the United States sneezes, Europe catches a cold. Well, the United States is now over 4% GDP. I would expect the globe to start picking up. I'm watching China. I want to watch those numbers real carefully. If China begins to pick up, this falls lockstep closer into my idea. The United States and China begin to lead a lot. You've got Asia and the U.S. We all want a strong Europe. We all want Europe to get rid of some of its bureaucracy. This is starting to, the pieces, again, the blocks are falling into place. When your what's his name asked about where I see it going, I see a much stronger global economy in the world. Initially with a lower inflation, but inflation as we get to the end of 26 is something that it's not going to go away. The genie's out of the bottle,
Right.
So that's not going to get put back in. And how did it get out? Well, look at the quantitative easing that still goes on in the world. You could call it what you want, but the Fed is quantitative easing, and so is Bank of Japan. They're still quantitative easing.
Yeah. I mean, you heard from two members today saying that the balance sheet seems to be okay right now. You feel okay with the balance sheet?
Steve, I think that anything that gets the Fed out of the marketplace means it frees up capital for everyone, for businesses, for R&D, for everything,
right?
For even people, for small business loans.
We're fully aware.
Right? So anything that we can get the central bank out, right? There's a pool of liquidity. So it's a finite limit of liquidity that's in the marketplace. If the government and the Fed have their hands in and taking massive chunks, it limits what the rest of us can get. Now, the government, yes, they can serve a purpose by providing fiscal stimulus and put different programs in that can aid the economy. So I don't necessarily argue that they need to be out of it, but government deficits don't help. So anything that moves us to reducing the government deficit or at least in relation to.
But you heard the Trump say this. He wants to reduce the deficit. Yeah, we now have the widest deficit, and now in history now as of last month.
But deficits measured by GDP are shrinking.
Okay, so we're going to change the goalpost again.
Well, no, it's not changing goalposts, Steve. If you make $100,000 and have $75,000 in debt, you're in a tough spot. If you make $1 million, meaning the GDP growth, and you still have $75,000 in debt, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but if you say the percentage of the debt to the GDP, we're over the 100% mark.
We still are, but we're coming down. I think we hit 124, 125. But if we're going to use that measurement, look at Japan at 240.
No, Japan's out of whack. Yeah.
Okay. But we are coming down. So, yeah, if we could get it back to 100%, that would be another net positive in that environment.
I mean, it's when you look at GDPs of countries, I don't think anybody cares. I mean, if you think about it, if they care, then why is Japan, doing their thing? Why? I mean, Switzerland doesn't care about the GDP. Nobody cares. The only thing people that care about the GDP is the percentages anymore. They don't even care about the actual numbers.
Well, I would say that they don't care about debt.
I'm sorry, the debt to that number. Yeah, it just seems like, okay, we have a lot of debt. We understand, and guess what? As long as it's serviceable, as Janet Yellen used to say, well, our debt's serviceable, so it's okay.
And
but the difference is now that the other countries are dumping our debt. We're hearing reports now that Trump claims Putin has agreed to temporary halt energy attacks in Ukraine, but terms are unclear.
Okay, there's another positive.
Another positive here. That's very positive for the market. I do like that. I do like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a big positive, Stephen. How that affects the energy market. I mean, that could be, a big play. Again, this just underlines weekend risk. Every Friday, you've got to assess, here's my positions, what could happen over the weekend. And over my 43 years of trading, there have been many a Sunday I have spent on the phone in the early markets trying to get myself hedged over some news that came out. And I'll give a short story, real short. Back in 1984, I was sitting there and I wanted to be short dollar yen at. I'm
buying Apple on this news here, by the way.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
I wanted to be short. You jump in, Steve, anytime. And I looked at my boss and I said, it's 260 to the dollar. And he said, well, it's been very volatile. Why don't you leave an order? I said, okay, I'll leave an order rather than go home short the dollar yen. So I put an order in at 262.5. I came in on Monday, did not get executed. And over the weekend, the Plaza Accord was announced.
Yeah.
For the viewers, the Plaza Accord was the governments of the world, the G7, that's where that came from, decide to intervene and forcibly push the dollar down. Those levels were never seen again. I could have had one of the greatest short positions of my career, but I had a paper trade that never, ever materialized into anything. So weekend risk is real. On a Friday, assess your portfolio and look for different things. You can go into any one of the AI engines, Grok, or that's the one I like to use, and just ask, how do I, put a defensive position on for the weekend?
Carl is saying that hopefully the weekend trading issues will change the next few years with tokenized 24/7 markets. I agree, Steve, Carlos, and I agree, Steve, because I love the Brian's asking about shares or options. I went long shares, 100 shares, something just to have some shares on my balance sheet here. I agree with this. That's why I bought Chainlink. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine being able to, as an investor, okay, and when you're trading stocks, keep in mind Warren Buffett, you got to be able to withstand 25% against you. But as an investor, could you imagine being able to trade 24/7? Wow. And that is the world we are going to. So that was a great question. And it is something that will come to fruition over the course of the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I was just asked if it's shares or options. Yeah, I bought a few more. I like this move here in Apple, and I like this thing about Putin. This could be really bullish for the markets in a lot of ways, and I want to be longer. And we're seeing the Dow pushing higher here, and Nasdaq pushing higher here too as well. I think you could. Oh, Mexico's Eberhard says, "I have no doubt that the USMCA will survive."
Ooh, in a changed format. Look, USMCA, greatest thing. Canada, Mark Carney just got to get on board.
I agree with that. He's get on board. I mean, I helped with the U.S. and NAFTA. I helped with NAFTA back in the day. For those who know, we're the president. North American Free Trade Agreement, which became the USMCA, which is today. I believe in free trade, Steve. I believe in free trade. Why doesn't the rest of the world believe in free trade? What's wrong with some of these countries?
Absolutely. Free trade. Let's look at the EU and India. Wow. That's
how about that deal?
Yeah. One. I mean, there's 2 billion people, I think, in that combined free trade agreement. So, yeah, I mean, Mark Carney, he's a bureaucrat. He's a former central banker. He's not a government official. He's not a politician.
Right.
And he's making some big mistakes on behalf of the Canadian people.
Right.
And that's, I think he's going to have to change his tune. Otherwise, you could see United States and you could see the United States and Mexico go it alone.
And Apple is pushing higher here on the back of that news. I think we do go positive. I think the Dow goes positive today. I think Nasdaq goes positive today. I think S&P goes positive today.
Yeah, I like the move up, Steve. I think next week could be a real big week. It's setting up that way.
XAG silver could not push higher here, and now back below the 100 handle here once again.
I just use from my 43 years. I'll offer one last piece of advice to them. Every year, we start the year off with some sort of narrative. This year, it's been a lot of negatives, And we always end up the rest of the first quarter unwinding the trade.
Agreed.
So I like the dollar, and I like the equity market position. I like the global market position right now. Peace is prevailing, a lot of agreements. The Fed thing seems to be behind us, the government shutdown behind us. I think the markets are going to struggle now because a lot of people are really dug in to negative views. And I think that could change, provided we continue with the positive blocks being put in place, like we've mentioned in this show.
I'm looking, man, this run in Apple's kind of nice here. I think I'm going to stay with them a little bit here.
I mean, what happens when they build iPhone 18 on the successes that they've had?
Yeah, they are not. I will be buying that one too. I do like that situation there. It's a nice phone.
I'll tell you what, Steve. I'm an iPhone user from the day one with Apple. All right, in my field, I always had to have the newest technology. My kids would always, love when I would finish a phone and give them the phone I had. But when they get this AI sorted out with this Siri thing,
yeah, they got to sort that out for me.
Siri is just an absolute waste of time. When they sort that out, look out.
Well, I think that they have, Steve. I think they've done what I've said to do, which is partner with OpenAI or partner with some AI company, and that's what they're doing now, right?
That's right. But, I still, every time I ask Siri a question, would you like me to look it up on ChatGPT? No, just give me the damn answer.
They don't like that, do they, Steve? I do have an order in to sell a little bit higher here. We'll see if I get my pick here. But well done if you're following me on this one. My goodness. Yeah, this is a nice little run here. We've had a nice little run. I think it could be a little pop to the top here. Yeah, I mean, CNBC now talking about Warsh again. I think the the talk of the day is going to be about Kevin Warsh, and it's going to be off the markets. It's going to be about, you know, how will he affect the markets. So I think that's going to go. You're talking about the weekend. I think that's what's going to happen. The weekend talk is going to be all about Kevin Warsh.
Yeah, and yet again, you know, I guess the one thing we can say that we have seen consistent this entire year, Trump comes out with a big boxing glove, starts talking down Fed independence, and then puts a guy in who's going to maintain Fed independence.
Yeah, I think he will totally keep. I still think he'll be listening to the president, though. I think he'll take the phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning. I think he'll take the meeting at the White House, which I don't think he should.
But you know what, Steve? The administration is at least trying to do things to help the people. 10% on your credit card for 1 year.
But I mean, keeping the Fed independence. I don't want to see Kevin Warsh's behind over the White House any moment. Well,
I agree with that, and I don't think, Steve, if they're acting in the America First mindset, I don't think you'll see him at the White House. They'll have little. He may be getting tweets all night long, but
hey, Kev, what you doing over there, bro? Lower my race for me.
I think you saw the senator that was just on a little while ago, who's standing in the way of the nomination right now.
I don't think I'm worried about that. There'll be Democrats that'll vote for this guy. I think it's smart on this side.
Yeah.
All right, it's 10 o'clock, Steve, as well. Man, I appreciate everybody. This has been a good one. We got great views out there. I'll see you right back here. We got a couple more today, including Peter Thomas. We're talking about silver today and gold, as we all want to talk about. And we got some surprises for this afternoon. So all those for Quasar Markets Live. We'll see you later.